I first started noticing that I had a hearing problem when I realized that I was saying "huh" more often than I should. And when our grandchildren started speaking, quite often I didn't understand what they were saying, which could be extremely frustrating. But it had actually started long before that. And I think you probably noticed it more than I did, that I had a hearing loss. So I guess it would be best to hear it from you, because you're the one that experienced it. I do know, before, just one other thing, and that is that one of the things that I noticed after a while is that I heard people best when I was looking at them when they were speaking. And I realized that I'm probably doing more lip reading than I am hearing. And, or at least it clarified for me that that's what I was hearing. But I know that you noticed before I did that I had a more serious hearing loss than I was willing to admit.
Well, it was very frustrating for me because I was recognizing that I was saying "huh" a lot more often, and I think it got to the point where I was actually starting to lose patience sometimes because Rich was not hearing me, and he didn't always want to admit that he wasn't hearing me. He was very good at pretending that he heard everything that I said. And I think it got very frustrating for him with our grandchildren that they started asking questions about, "Papa, you don't hear me, and why can't you hear what I'm saying to you?" And I think that's when we both realized that something needed to be done. And it took some time, and before we realized that there was going to be a fair, that there was an opportunity to have a free hearing test, and I actually got to drag Rich to that fair and had the opportunity to have him go through the hearing test.
It was a technology fair.
It was a technology fair.
I knew that it was something that would probably be useful for me to know, is just how much hearing loss did I have. And one of the things that happened at the fair is they look inside your ear John Hoagland looked inside my ear to see whether or not there was any wax deposit. Maybe that was causing some of the problem that I was having. And it was fascinating how well the device he was using could see inside my ear. And no, there wasn't a lot of wax, so it was definitely a problem with hearing. But that was quite an experience. And it was then that we decided, okay, I'll come down and do a hearing test. Not a big deal. So, you know, it's not something that's going to hurt. It's not like going to the dentist. So let's go do it. Yes, I went into the Hoagland Family Hearing Center for the test, and it was an interesting experience. You go in a little room, and you wear a headset, and they play tones in your ear, and you are indicating whether or not you can hear the tone or not. And it's interesting as the tone gets lower, and when a tone comes up and it's extremely low, you're not absolutely sure, did I hear that or didn't I hear that? But of course, the technician that's doing this knows exactly what to expect. And it went great, and they got a fantastic results. The results were, for me, knowing which ear was the ear that was weakest, which ear I had the most hearing loss in, it reflected that immediately. And I knew whether or not I was having problems with low tones or high pitch or low pitch, whatever you would refer to it as. I already knew where my problems were, and that the test definitely verified exactly what I thought. And it was quite an experience. I was sitting in that room waiting for the tone, but it worked, and we were able to address my problem from that. Well, I needed hearing aids, definitely. And we went through, it was more than just the hearing test itself, being in that little room, hearing the tones. There was a lot of education. John and his wife, Patricia, spent a lot of time speaking with us, my wife and I, about what I was experiencing and why I was experiencing what I was experiencing, and why it was important to address this problem as soon as possible, because long-term loss of hearing can actually create a problem where the hearing aids won't be as effective, and because it's been so long that you've been having had this problem. And it had been long enough for me that it was time for me to address it. But one of the big things was having my wife Cheryl be outside of the room, speaking, saying words, and I barely could tell what word she was saying. John had done the same thing, had run a test of the same type, and he would say these words, and I just didn't hear the words. And for my wife, I didn't hear a thing that she was saying. I was shocked. And obviously, I've been reading her lips for a long time. Then John put a set of hearing aid, the headset on me, and turned the volume up so that I could hear the same words that he had said earlier. And wow, what a difference! I mean, suddenly I could hear. It was quite an experience. And it was only then, you put headsets on to hear music, and you think, oh, that's nice, I could hear the music. But it was so much different to hear those words being said when I couldn't read his lips and realize that I couldn't hear a thing he was saying, and then hear it later with the headset on, and I could hear everything he was saying. It was apparent that I was having a real problem. And when I tutor a student, we spend a lot more time talking about what I was there to talk about, rather than saying, and then having to repeat it 2 or 3 times. Or me having to get a little bit closer to figure out what it is they were saying. Looking back on it, it had to be an uncomfortable situation for the student. And of course, the one thing is, the student, most of these people are young, and they're accustomed to their friends hearing them. And to be with someone that's a little more advanced in age, if you can't hear them, it just separates you a little bit more, in fact, significantly more. But now I could hear what they were saying, and it made a big, big difference in my ability to be effective as a tutor.
Oh my goodness. Hoagland Family Hearing, Patricia and John treated us with they gave us so much of their time and talked to us about how this can help and the long-term effects of not hearing, just the education that they gave us. There were things that we never thought about. My dad wears hearing devices, and reluctantly, and doesn't wear them as often as he should. And we heard often his complaints about why he didn't like wearing them and how much they didn't work for him. So I was really anxious to learn more about how they do work and how this can help, and the experience of wearing them long term, how that will affect you. And it's been great for me, because then I was able to take the education that we got and go back and talk to my dad. And it was obvious that when he got his hearing devices, he did not work with someone that provided that level of education. And that really provided comfort to us, but gave me the opportunity to share that information with my dad, too.
He wears his hearing aids a lot more
now. Yes, he does.
As far as, well, I finally got the hearing aids, and I was concerned before I got them. I was concerned about a couple of things, and one is, of course, naturally, I'm now wearing hearing aids, and I have 2 young cousins that wear hearing aids. And theirs were, as I remember them, were large and bulky, and they weren't happy with the fact that they had to wear hearing aids. Could have been for another reason, but anyhow, I know that they were never happy with that. They had a profound hearing problem. And also my father-in-law, he was always complaining about his hearing aids. So I was a little concerned about what it was going to be like. And then I got them, and I put them in. And first thing was, I could hear, which in and of itself was a surprise. I can actually hear. And my father-in-law, he was one that would always complain about his hearing aids, as I said. And I was experiencing no problem. In fact, I put them on. I wore them all day. John had warned me that maybe I would only want to wear them for an hour or two the first day, and maybe 3 or 4 hours the second day, and kind of work into it. I wore them all day the first day, and every day since. When I get out of the shower in the morning, and when I'm getting dressed, I put my hearing aids in, which is great because Cheryl's usually in the other room talking to me, and I put them in and I can hear her. And I take them out when I'm ready to go to sleep. You know, so the last thing I do is I take my hearing aids out. I don't even notice they're there. The only time the only time I notice they're there is when I sit down and watch television. Occasionally I'll do an adjustment. I have 3 settings in this, and one of the settings allows me to hear television a little bit better than I would if I'm in the normal hearing mode. And it really brings the volume up. And I have been frustrated for a long time not being able to hear television. And now I can hear TV. And it's great. It is wonderful. They're comfortable. I don't even know they're there. It's been quite an experience. So I went back and told my father-in-law, what have you been complaining all these years about? There's nothing to complain about. Get over it. So maybe it's vanity on his part, but there's no reason to, you barely notice they're there. I look in the mirror, I don't see they're there. And I know a lot of people that will ask me, I heard you were getting hearing aids, so have you got them yet? I say, I got them yet. I got them in. They're there. Can't you see them? So yeah, it's been quite an experience. I'm very, very happy with them.
Huge changes. It's been, in fact, we tease each other sometimes because when Rich does have them out, if he hasn't put them in yet in the morning and I'm talking to him, he will be saying, huh? And I'll say, oh, you don't have your hearing aids in yet. He says, no, wait just a minute. And he puts them in. But I have to say, I'm very proud that he's wearing them because I know that this, through the education that we learned through Patricia and John Hoagland, that the effects of on the brain of the loss of hearing, that this is going to help long term. And I'm very proud of him for wearing them. And it's just like anything else that he's had to deal with. He just digs in and does whatever he has to do. And it really has helped. And it's helped with our grandkids, too. We do notice the difference, and the kids talk about it.
Yeah.
So, they think it's great that he has them. It's just another one of those things that Papa has attached to him.
Yeah.
And they think it's wonderful. So, it's been great, and it has helped our relationship.
Yeah.